Okay, so here we start this week. Today is Sunday, the 2nd of May, 2021, and we are continuing our class from 2 weeks ago. And where we are in the history of Israel is they have, as we saw 2 weeks ago, the declaration had gone out that they were headed home, that the exile was ending. Cyrus was going to let all the exiles go home. So where we pick up today is in Ezra 1, where it starts to list the people who went back. Now keep in mind that it happened in stages. They didn't send everybody back at the same time. So that's why they keep a record of who went back when. You'll get it when we get to the end. You'll see that there were like 47,000 people that went back this time. Well, we know there were 400,000 people there in exile in two different locations. So, and we hear some interesting things about those that were taken by the Assyrians. Remember the Assyrians, they took people and moved them to different locations. Well, we run into people that are coming back that have no Jewish history. They're not Jews, or they have no proof of it. So, so it gets interesting. And it really plays a major role in what happens later on. So anyway, yeah, I know I try to give y'all something to look forward to, and sometimes it just kind of pushes you all away. I don't want to. So I'm going to share this screen. We'll go on with our Game of Thrones thing here. I think it's that one. Share. Okay. And I'll go here. I don't know what happened. I do not know what happened.
The computer, I don't understand.
I don't either.
Got me.
Plug
in right?
If it can get fouled up, it will.
I hope we're
Used
still
to
on.
be that programmers were fluent in the language of profanity. Now it's just, if you turn on the computer, you become fluent in the language of profanity.
That's why Geek Squad's coming out tomorrow. We've got a contract with them.
Okay, there we are. Okay, I'm sorry. I got weird screens here. So I think we're still recording too. At least it looks like it is. So okay. So let's yeah, we're still recording. So the return from exile. So you'll see that I've got a split screen. You've got 2 Chronicles 36, 22 and 23 on the left. You've got Ezra 1, 1 through 3 on the right. They are pretty much word for word until you get to verse 3 in Ezra. And really the only word Ezra 1. Okay. Yeah, there's really only one word that's different between the two until you get to verse 3 in Ezra, and then it adds some more. So, so we're going to read the Ezra text, and if someone wants to read 1 through 3.
Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he sent a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever there is among you of all his people, may his God be with you, be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and rebuild the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem.
Okay. So Cyrus is a convert. At least he believes in the God of Israel. Okay. He's not a Jew, but he believes in the God of Israel. Yeah, we know he's not a Jew because there's nowhere in there where it says that they took him, bound him, and circumcised him. So, so he is not a Jew, but he is definitely, at least through his proclamation, believes in God.
And
Believes in the
God
God
told
of Israel.
him to build the temple.
In fact, in Isaiah, in one of the texts in Isaiah, it lists it names Cyrus by name as being the appointed one of God that's going to do this.
Hmm.
However, Isaiah, if you recall, was written in 3 different time frames, and one of those was during the exile, and one of them was written after the exile, and then you have Isaiah, what they call Isaiah 1, which is written kind of before, so or leading up
Okay.
to, so during. Okay, so we go on to the next. Someone wants to read verses 4 and 5.
And the people of any place for survivors may now be living or to provide him with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with free will offerings for the temple of God in Jerusalem. And the family head of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, and everyone whose heart God had moved, prepared to go up and build the house of the Lord in Jerusalem.
Okay, so we start getting specific about who is getting ready to go back. Not only is the proclamation that you can go back home and build your temple, but we are going to give you
stuff
these,
to do.
we're going to give you stuff to do it with. And this proclamation includes the Persians that are living among them are to give up some of their things in order to help this process, which is a complete turnaround from what happened in Egypt when they left captivity in Egypt. They asked the Egyptians for things and they didn't, they wouldn't voluntarily give them. When they went back, because their firstborns had died, and asked for them, the people were throwing things at them to get them to go.
Get out
So-
of here.
So we're not too far in. We're in Ezra 1, and we've only gone through 5 verses. So again, I'm going to start apologizing, and I'll do it even more and more and more because we're going to get into names of people, and they're not the easiest. So 6 through 8.
All their neighbors assisted them with articles of silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with valuable gifts, in addition to all the free will offerings. Moreover, King Cyrus brought out the articles belonging to the temple of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem and had placed in the temple of his God. Cyrus, king of Persia, had them brought by Mithredath, the treasurer, who counted them out to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah.
Okay.
Well done.
Yeah. She gets all the other ones.
So not only are they getting free will offerings and things that they're going to need to go, but Cyrus has opened up the temple of Nebuchadnezzar, and he's giving them back the articles that belong to
They
their temple to
stole.
begin with, which is amazing. Although it's not nearly all of what
Yeah,
Nebuchadnezzar
right,
took, but it's what's left.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you can ask.
All right,
me.
it says here, Sheshbazzar,
Mhm,
the prince of Judah.
mhm.
That's a Persian name.
Right.
So
Remember
who
they.
was this prince of Judah then?
Remember that a lot of the nobles that were taken into exile were given
Yeah.
Persian names or Babylonian names. Remember Daniel's Hebrew name, but his Babylonian name was Belshazzar. So
So we don't know what this guy's name was then in Hebrew.
this guy probably, no, we don't have that name.
All right.
So, but more than likely, he was one of those that were taken as a child and
Oh, yeah.
indoctrinated. That's why he's, Prince of Judah. So, that would be my guess. Mithredath is the treasurer of Persia. Okay, so here begins the inventory, verse 9 and 10.
This was the inventory. Gold dishes 10, silver dishes 1,000, silver pans 29, gold bowls 30, matching silver bowls 410, and other articles is 1,000.
Interesting that all of them end in zeros except for silver pans,
Yeah.
29. I often wonder when things like that, that's a big difference, why don't you just round up or something, which is probably what the others were, but why 29? I think it may have been 30 and the treasurer's going,
Somebody smashed
the
one.
money fits in here really, really good. So 1 for you, 1 for me, 2 for you, 1, 2 for me, kind of thing. But, I take it on faith that that's what it was. So, okay. So verse 11,
In all, there were, oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead, go
In
ahead.
all, there were 5,400 articles of gold and silver. Sheshbazzar brought all these along when the exiles went from Babylon to Jerusalem.
okay. So obviously, if you go back up and you count those, that doesn't add up to 5,400, but
A lot more
these,
there.
right.
Other miscellaneous things.
Right, these are gonna be the
Entertainment.
forks and all the
Mhm.
little utensil things, so.
Man,
Mhm,
mine says up there at 29, silver incense burners.
okay,
And what did yours say, Ron?
Bowls.
Silver pan.
Silver
Pans.
pan.
Pans.
okay. I don't have an answer for that. It just translation.
Mine says duplicates.
I've got a B, but I can't find where the B, I mean the D, but I can't find where the D is.
Oh, you mean a
29
note,
duplicates.
usually at the bottom, a reference, in text reference. Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, that's it for Ezra 1. We finished the first chapter.
Okay,
Now
woohoo.
we go into Ezra 2.
That was easy.
And this is where it gets fun. I'll be happy to read these if you want. Basically, I'm reading the whole chapter. Okay. Now, these are the people of the province who came up from the captivity of the exiles. Remember, you notice it says the province, so they're moving them back by group, by section, okay? People of the province who came up from the captivity of the exiles, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had taken captive to Babylon. Keep in mind, the first ones to go are those that the Babylonians took, not the Assyrians.
Mm.
So, they returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to their own town, in company with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Realiah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigvai, Rehum, and Bana. The names that you see up there are not the people we've heard of
That we-
before.
yeah.
So the Nehemiah is, well, I take that back. That Nehemiah is the same one. But Joshua
Mhm.
definitely is not. Joshua, Yeshua, you're, in fact, you're gonna see Yeshua here in a little bit. That's the same person. Joshua, Yeshua are the same
Oh.
person. By the way, that Joshua, that's Jesus' Hebrew name.
Mm.
Oh,
It's Joshua, Yeshua.
Mhm.
So it was a very common name. Zerubbabel, we've heard about that back during the kings of Israel, but it's not the same. It's a different one. So, and Mordecai. Mordecai is kind of a weird one. This is not the Mordecai that we don't believe
Esther.
anyway, from Esther, right?
don't believe that.
But I don't think so because they're separated by like 80 years,
Mm.
so,
Mhm.
or 70 years. Something like that. Okay, the list of men of the people of Israel. Notice this is the men.
wow.
The descendants of Parash, 2172. Now, the men are the names.
Yeah.
The families,
Family name.
women and children, and all those are the number behind it. So the
Okay.
descendants of Parash, 2172. Of Shephatiah, 372. Of Era, 775. Of Pahath Moab through the line of Yeshua and Joab, 2812. Of Elam, 1254. Of Zatu, 945. Of Zakai, 760. That, by the way, that would end up becoming Zacchaeus in Aramaic, so, or Greek. I want you to think of some of these names. Offer these to your grandkids when they're having kids.
Yeah,
Of Bonnie, 642. Of Bebai, 623. Bebai, well, that's a great one. Asgad, 1222. Of Adonikam, 666. I stopped there.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a number. Okay. Of
Yeah.
Bigvai, 2056. Of Aden, 454. Of Atter through Hezekiah, 98.
Oh.
Of Bezai, 323. Of Jorah, 112. Of Hashem, 223. Of Gibbar, 95. The men of Bethlehem, they don't get names. 123, and that's the total of of the people. That's not the number of men, that's the total.
Men, women, and children.
The men of Bethlehem don't get a name here, so. Of Netopha, 56, of Anathoth, 128, of Asmaveth, 42, of Kiriath Jearim, Kephira, and Beeroth, 743. Of Ramah and Geba, 621, of Michmash, ooh, I like that name too, Michmash, 122. Of Bethel and Ai, 223, of Nebo, 52, of Magbish, 156, of the other Elam. This is, this is Peggy and the other Peggy.
Yeah.
All 64
This is-
verses.
Yeah, well, all 70 verses.
I know, well, I went down to 64.
Okay. Yeah, that's that, what was that from, I forget, Newhart. This is my brother Daryl.
And my other brother,
My- This is Larry, my brother Daryl.
and my other brother, Daryl.
1254, of Harim 320, of Lod, Hadid, and Ono. Ooh, what do I name that? Ono. 725. There was a ice skater from the US during the Olympics named Apollo Ono
Yeah.
Mhm.
and Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean Ono. Of Jericho, 345, of Sinah, 3630, the priests, the descendants of Jediah through the family of Yeshua, 973, of Emer, 1052, of Pasher, 1247, of Harim, 1017. The Levites, the descendants of Yeshua and Kadmiel of the line of Hodaviah, 74. The musicians, the descendants of Asaph. You know, does Asaph ring a bell? You know, half of the Psalms are attributed to David. Of the other half of those are attributed to Asaph. So, 128, the gatekeepers of the temple, the descendants of Shalom, Atur, and Talman, Akab, Hitita, and Shobai, 139. The temple servants, the descendants of Ziha, Hasufa, Tabaoth. Here, there's no numbers, right?
No.
I didn't forget, so, okay. Kiros, Siaha, Padon, Lebana, Hagabah, Akub, that would be Jacob, Akub, Hagab, Shalmai, Hanan, Gidel, Gahar, Riah, Rezin, Nakoda, that would be a nice name. Gazam, Uzzah, Paseah, Besai, Asna, Meunim, Nephusim, Backbook, oh, that would be a neat one too, Backbook. Hakufa, Harher, sounds like something that Jerry Lewis would try to say. Basluth, Mahida, Harsha, Barkos, Sisera, Tima, Naziah, and Hatifa, the descendants of the servants of Solomon, the descendants of Sotai, Hasaphereth, Peruda, Jala, Darkon, Gidel, Shephatiah, Hatil, Pokereth, Hazabayim, and Ami. Ami means love, by the way. The temple servants and the descendants of the servants of Solomon. 392. I think we named all those.
They'd asked you that the first time, you'd have passed the
Right.
first time.
Yeah, all of them. You know, why do the men of Bethlehem get such a simple thing?
Yeah.
The following came up from the towns of Tel Malah, Tel Harsha, Kerub, Adon, and Immer, but they could not show that their families were descended from Israel. The descendants of Deliah, Tobiah, and Nakoda, 652. And from among the priests. Now, again, these are people who can't prove that they're from Israel. There's priests, those claim to be priests that can't prove they're part of Israel.
Wow.
The descendants of Hobiah, Hakaz, and Barzillai, a man who married a daughter of Barzillai the Gileadite and was called by that name. So how would you like that you become known as your wife's name? So for those women who choose to keep their own name, your marriage, here's your example. Here's your biblical example right here. Of a man taking on the wife's name. Someone want to read 62 through 66 or through 67, sorry.
These searched among their ancestral registration, but they could not be located. Therefore, they were considered unclean and excluded from the priesthood. And the governor said to them that they should not eat from the most holy things until a priest stood up with Urim and Thummim.
We'll get into that in a moment.
Do what?
We'll get into that in a moment.
Okay. The whole assembly numbered 42,360. Besides their male and female servants, who numbered 7,337, they had 200 singing men and women. Their horses were 736, their mules 245, and their camels 435. Their donkeys 6,720.
Okay.
67, you said?
That's, yeah, you're good. You've done it. Okay, so the whole company numbered a little over 42,650. In addition to these, this says male and female slaves. In this regard, these, the words that are used for this, I wouldn't necessarily call them slaves. It's just it's easy to say that, servants.
Mhm.
Your servants were on an hierarchy. These would have been on the lowest part of that hierarchy. These would have been the servants of the servants, the subservants. Okay. So,
Okay, well, you just said what I thought here, because, and you're gonna know what my education is when I ask you this question. You take out this number of people out of the economy of Persians, and I can't find what happened to the economy after these people left. Personally, the consumers are gone, a lot of the consumers are gone. And, there's your workers. And the other side of the coin is how many stayed, because successful people in a society do not leave.
mhm.
So then you said servants of service, they would be the ones to go because they're the quote failures and losers, whatever you want to call them. So they're gone.
Possibly, but there is question, historically, there's questions as to this exile, how long it lasted. I mean, there's proof that it was there, but there's not very good proof. The Babylonians didn't write about it.
Yeah, well, Babylonians are gonna go.
And they were pretty good record keepers. So we pretty much all we have of Israel's history is through the eyes of
These
Israel.
guys, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and the reason I asked is because if you look at Egypt, when they lost when all the Jews left,
Mhm.
this showed that Ramses was really a great pharaoh because he kept the economy of Egypt going. Because they lost all their workers and consumers.
Mhm.
So,
And his army.
pardon?
Oh, yeah, they lost his
army,
army in the Red Sea.
But, so I
Teach them.
so Ramses becomes, in my mind, a great king because he did keep the economy going and he kept the country afloat. That's why I asked, what happened to Persia? Did it fall after this immediately or what?
Wait.
Okay.
Not yet. This
I
is
don't
what
think
it's
we'll get
about.
into it next week or the week after, but the week after that, I think it will get answered. It does address that specific thing at the
I
end.
haven't read far enough along, but it's just my knowledge of Persian history. I can't find out.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away because I'm excited about what we're going to do in the next couple of
Okay.
weeks. So wait till the last slide. What I was going to get at here, in verse 63, the governor ordered these particular people that we just mentioned not to eat the most sacred food until there was a priest ministering with the Urim and Thummim. Does Urim and Thummim make any sense? Anybody know what that is?
I can't remember, but I don't remember specifically, but it's part of it's sacred stuff. I mean, is it
Come on.
no, is it one of them the dice or something?
Yes. Yes. In fact, what has derived from that in current times is the dreidel.
Ah, okay.
It was dice. Urim and Thummim were dice. What happened was when you have a priest or a leader who could not discern from the Holy Scriptures, from all of what their rules were, how to make a decision on something.
Oh, they threw the dice.
They believed that these dice were graced by God to make that decision
magic eight
for
ball.
them.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think we all want to buy dice set.
Right, well, we could, yeah, holy dice,
Yeah.
get yours now. We'll get Chuck to do the commercial.
Oh, now you get the second pair free.
Yeah. Room and Thummim.
Who says history doesn't apply today?
But yeah, the dreidel, although it's a toy,
Huh.
that is what has been
Okay.
derived, is they would take that die or something, and of course, if it was like a dreidel, they would spin it, and however it landed, that would be their answer.
The answer.
Because they believed that it was graced by God to
Mhm.
give the answer, when they couldn't in a human.
Okay.
So right, so these people that are coming back, they don't have any paperwork. They can't prove that there is, but they insist they are. The priests don't know how to handle this. So, okay, for right now, we're going to set you off to the side. We can't let you do what we want like these others because we've got proof of them. But we're not going to completely disregard you at all, and just kick you out completely. We're gonna kick you out.
Figure it out.
We're gonna put you over here until we get a priest that has these magic dice to decide this for us.
Well, were they all not circumcised? Is that part of the problem? They couldn't prove that?
I'm sure it may have been, although I don't know if that plays really any role. There is an important thing. The reason they went through all these names here in chapter 2, and then at the end they get to these, well, these people don't have any proof.
Mhm.
There was no record of it.
Yeah, because you had to be listed in the book to have,
Well,
to keep your
right,
land.
you
I mean,
kept your
before.
lineage, you kept your
Yeah,
lineage,
yeah,
that's how you got
and
your
you see
land
the
and
importance of
everything.
that in the Gospels, Matthew and Luke, when it goes through the lineage of Jesus. This is where how Jesus fits
Yeah.
into this. So lineage was a big deal. Some of them take it that the land and material assets transferred by the male side. The attributes and importance transferred through the woman
Female
side.
side,
And that's
yeah.
why Matthew and Luke have two different lists.
Hmm.
So in this case, you notice that they're talking about material possessions. So it's going by the men's names.
So on this dice,
Mhm.
what options? Stoning? Pass through?
Don't know. Don't know. No. But, yeah, I hope they didn't roll them and it said, try again. So,
Next week.
my guess is that it probably, they probably wrote down what these things would mean. God, these are the choices we're going with. This side means this side means this side means this. And I'm sure, I don't know whether there'd be one that would stone them, but I'm sure that there would be one choice where they were completely excluded. They were kicked out of the community.
Right.
You don't belong. And they would have accepted that ruling.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so we go on.
One more thing,
They had a
But
choir of
it's the-
200.
the priests and Levites differently, didn't the priests come from the Levite?
The priests,
Clan or-
they all did, right. Originally, they were all from the tribe of Levi, and technically they still are. Levi had 2 sons, and over time, well, Aaron had 2 sons.
Right.
And one of them disobeyed God, did something bad, and so his line was taken, the priesthood was taken away from his line. They became the Levites, whereas the
Okay.
other line continued with the priests.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, they broke it down even further here with the temple servants and all
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
They would, all of those would have been Levites.
Okay.
Okay. 68 through 70.
When they arrived at the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, some of the heads of the families gave free will offerings for the rebuilding the house of God on its site. According to their ability, they gave the treasure for this work of 61,000 of gold,
That's a half a ton.
5,000 lines of silver.
That's 3 tons.
And 100 priestly garments. The priests, the Levites, the singers, the gatekeepers, the temple servants, settled in their own towns along with some of the other people, and the rest of the Israelites settled in their towns.
So the first group to come back are those that are specific to the temple. And they were only from the tribe of Judah and Benjamin, which makes sense. Because when the kingdom split, remember, most of the priests were in Judah. Benjamin is always included with Judah pretty much because they were so small. They were, I won't say insignificant, but they had to rely on their bigger brother Judah to do that. Okay, now with this, we have a couple of, remember Asaph? These two, we're going to read two Psalms. They're not attributed to Asaph at all, but the first one is a Song of Ascents that has been recorded as possibly one of those songs that they sang as they made their way to Jerusalem during their travel. Song of Ascents means you're going up towards something, especially if it's
Ascent, you're saying?
Ascent, A-S-C-E-N-T.
Yeah.
The other one is a general psalm of praise, which they believe was written around this time frame. Okay, so the first one is Psalm 126. It's pretty short, has 6 verses. If someone wants to read the first 3.
Okay. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy.
I should have told you to sing it. Remember, it's a
Oh,
song.
well, that would have been
Uh,
faster.
You may have some different wording, especially in verse 1 there. Anybody have something other than we were like those who dream? No, okay. There are some other translations that say we were those who were made nothing. That we were those who were in exile and stuff like that. So if you have that translation, that's fine too. Verses 4 through 6.
Restore our fortunes, Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sleeves with them.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
That sounds like
That's
a
a happy
prosperity
time.
gospel.
Hmm?
That sounds like a prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
They're all that has been prophesied before them,
Yeah.
all they have been preached to about is finally coming
Yeah.
clear. They're starting to understand, and they're the generation that gets to do it. And so there is definitely some excitement.
Yeah.
So,
Think of the people that got taken
huh?
to, they were sad.
Mhm.
They were.
Right,
No joy in their
a
lives.
lot of their families were destroyed or killed.
Yeah.
Others
Very sad.
ran away and ended up getting taken over to Egypt. So it's there's.
So how long of a time were they in captivity up there?
This first group that comes back was 49 years. 49 years.
Okay,
49 years.
so a generation.
Correct. At least a full generation. Okay, now we're going to Psalm 147. This is a psalm of praise. Like I said, believed to have been written about that time. And if someone wants to read 1 through 4.
Praise the Lord. How good to sing praises to our God. How delightful and how fitting. The Lord is rebuilding Jerusalem and bringing the exiles back to Israel. He heals the heartbroken and bandages their wounds. He counts the stars and calls them all by name.
And 5 through 8.
Great is our Lord and abundant in strength. His understanding is infinite. The Lord supports the afflicted. He brings down the wicked to the ground. Sing to the Lord with thanksgiving. Sing praises to our God on the lyre, who covers the heavens with clouds, who provides rain for the earth, who makes grass to grow on the mountains.
9 through 12.
He provides food for the cattle and for the young ravens whom they call. His pleasure is not in the strength of the horse, nor his delight in the legs of a man. The Lord delights in those who fear him, who put their hope in his unfailing love. Extol the Lord, O Jerusalem, praise your God, O Zion.
13 through 17.
He strengthens the bars of your gates and blesses your people within you. He grants peace to your borders and satisfies you with the finest of wheat. He sends his command to the earth. His word runs swiftly. He spreads the snow like wool and scatters the frost like ashes. He hurls down his hail like pebbles. Who can withstand his icy blast?
18 through 20.
He sends his words and melts. He stirs up blizzards and the waters flow. He has revealed his word to Jacob, his laws and decrees to Israel. He has done this for no other nation. They do not know his laws. Praise the Lord.
Okay. So, do you notice how this particular psalm started? What was the first three words?
Praise the Lord.
It was actually one word in Hebrew. What would that be?
Hosanna? No.
Hallelujah.
Oh, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Mm.
And it
It
ends
ends.
the same way.
Same way.
Hallelujah. Okay. Well, the next time we meet, the rebuilding begins.
Woo-hoo.
We'll be in Ezra 3 and 4. We're not gonna go all the way through 4. We're only gonna go through the first few verses of that. Because it jumps, Ezra and Nehemiah are kind of grouped together and they time jump and do some different things. But we're also going to answer the question, what about Daniel?
Ah.
He's still there. So we're going to actually look into what Daniel is up to, or at least try to get there. Okay, so any other questions, concerns, criticisms, complaints, anything that starts with a C or Q? Oh. Okay, thank you all. Let me try to get out of this screen. I don't know what screen it's going to give me. That was weird. Really.
Every day is an adventure.
That one. Oh, okay, we're back.
Yay.
Oh, hello, us.
I don't know how that happened. That was weird because I couldn't find this screen anywhere on mine. Okay. So thank you all and have a
Thank you.
wonderful week and we will see you next week.
Yep, you too.